were then called pupils of the first rank during the existence of the mentioned institution. Certain of them, by the way, turned out subsequently, to my personal sincere regret, to have in their essence a predisposition to the speedy transformation of their psyche into the psyche called Hasnamussian, a predisposition which appeared and became fully visible and clearly sensible to all more or less normal persons around them, when, at the moment of desperate crisis for everything I had previously actualized, due to the said accident, they, as is said, quaking for their skins, that is to say, fearing to lose their personal welfare, which, by the way, I had created for them, deserted the common work, and with their tails between their legs took themselves off to their kennels, where, profiting by the crumbs fallen from my, so to say, idea table, they opened their, as I would say, Schackermacher workshop booths, and with a secret feeling of hope and perhaps even joy at their speedy and complete release from my vigilant control, began manufacturing out of various unfortunate naive people candidates for lunatic asylums. I append just this particular lecture, in the first place, because at the very beginning of the dissemination of the ideas I imported into life, it was specially prepared here on the continent of Europe to serve as the introduction, or as it were, threshold for the whole series of subsequent lectures, by no less than the whole sum of which was it possible both to make clear in a form accessible to everybody the necessity and even the inevitability of a practical actualization of the immutable truths I have elucidated and established in the course of half a century of day and night active work, and also to prove the actual possibility of employing those truths for the welfare of people. And secondly, I append it here because, while it was last being publicly read, and I happened myself to be present at that numerous gathering, I made an addition which fully corresponds to the hidden thought introduced by Mr. Beelzebub himself into this, so to say, concluding chord, and which at the same time, illuminating once more this most great objective truth, will in my opinion make it possible for the reader properly to perceive and assimilate this truth as befits a being who claims to be an image of God. Lecture number 1. The variety, according to law, of the manifestations of human individuality. Last read in New York in the Neighborhood Playhouse, January 1924. According to the investigations of many scientists of past ages, and according to the data obtained at the present time by means of the quite exceptionally conducted researches of the Institute for the Harmonious Development of Man, according to the system of Mr. Gurdjieff, the whole individuality of every man, according to laws and conditions of the process of life of people, which have from the very beginning become established and gradually fixed on the earth, of whatever heredity he is the result, and whatever be the accidental surrounding conditions in which he arose and developed, must already at the beginning of his responsible life, as a condition of responding in reality to the sense and predesignation of his existence as a man, and not merely as an animal, indispensably consist of 4 definite, distinct personalities. The first of these 4 independent personalities is nothing else than the totality of that automatic functioning which is proper to man as well as to all animals, the data for which are composed in them, firstly, of the sum total of the results of impressions previously perceived from all the surrounding reality, as well as from everything intentionally, artificially implanted in them from outside, and secondly, from the result of the process, also inherent in every animal, called daydreaming. And this totality of automatic functioning most people ignorantly name consciousness, or at best, mentation. The second of the four personalities, functioning in most cases independently of the first, consists of the sum of the results of the data deposited and fixed, which have been perceived by the common presence of every animal through its 6 organs, called receivers of the varied qualitied vibrations, which organs function in accordance with newly perceived impressions, and the sensitiveness of which depends upon transmitted heredity and on the conditions of the preparatory formation of the given individual for responsible existence. The third independent part of the whole being is the prime functioning of his organism, as well as what are called the motor reflex reciprocally affecting manifestations proceeding in it. And the quality of these manifestations also depends on those aforesaid results of heredity and of the circumstances during his preparatory formation. And the fourth, which should also be a separate part of the whole individual, is none other than the manifestation of the totality of the results of the already automatized functioning of all the 3 enumerated personalities separately formed and independently educated in him. That is to say, it is that part which is called in a being I. In the common presence of a man, and for the spiritualization and manifestation of each of the enumerated 3 separately formed parts of his entire whole, there is an independent, as it is called, gravity center localization. And each of these gravity center localizations, each with its own entire system, has for its general actualization its own peculiarities and predispositions inherent in it alone. In consequence of this, in order to make possible the rounded perfecting of a man, a special corresponding correct education is indispensably necessary for each of these 3 parts, and not such a treatment as is given nowadays and also called education. Only then can the I, which should be in man, be his own I. According to the already indicated seriously instituted experimental investigations carried on over many years, or even according merely to the sane and impartial reflection of even every contemporary man, the common presence of every man, particularly of one in whom for some reason or another there arises, so to say, the pretension to be not just an ordinary average man, but what is called one of the intelligentsia, in the genuine sense of the word, must inevitably consist not only of all the said 4 fully determined distinct personalities, but each of them must of necessity be exactly correspondingly developed to ensure that in his general manifestations during the period of his responsible existence, all the separate parts should harmonize with each other. For a comprehensive and visible clarification to oneself of the varied sources of the arising and the varied qualities of the manifested personalities in the general organization of man, and also of the difference between what is called that I, which should be in the common presence of a man without quotation marks, that is, a real man, and as it can be expressed, the pseudo-I, which people today mistake for it. An analogy can be very well made, though this analogy, as is said, has been worn threadbare by contemporary what are called spiritualists, occultists, theosophists, and other specialists in catching fish in muddy waters, in their cackle about what are